Hey, what's up, my friends? Russell West checking in here for a super quick go live video. Today, I have a very interesting resource to dive into, and you might love this. You also might not never see this coming. So, I'm about to reveal something to you that has been, in my opinion, probably one of the most pivotal pieces of information I've gotten my hands on. And that's been because this book has been unlike all other books that I've read. A lot of books out there, they have this, oh, here's a bunch of information, and now you can go and figure it all out on your own. But this particular book had to do with your emotional hangups. Like imagine going through a really difficult life experience. And as time passed, you keep looking back on your memory, and your memory, based on your present state of mind, your memory now becomes tainted. You start to look back on your memory with this kind of sense of, oh, that time in my life meant this, and this is what it is. And then this sticks with you. And maybe a pure memory over time can become tainted and actually be affecting your ability to succeed or to get in your way. Hey, Ingrid, thanks for joining me today. So what I'm about to reveal to you is a specific book. Hey, Amy, welcome. I'm about to reveal a very important book that has literally, before I ever became an entrepreneur, before I ever even realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I ended up doing the exercise in this book, and it was very effective, and it had a freaking really big effect on me. But it wasn't just like oh, you learned something new and now go figure it out on your own. No. This was an exercise done in this book to undo emotional knots tied inside of us, where we have a hang up emotionally regarding our success, regarding maybe it's a hang up, I believe I'm not worthy. Maybe it's a hang up, I believe I'm not worthy of love. Maybe it's a hang up, I believe that I'm meant to be rejected. Maybe it's a hang up that I believe I'm supposed to think small. It was very fascinating how this all came about, but I ended up having recurring nightmares a few years back, 2 years back, actually, before I even got into entrepreneurship. I was in one of the darkest times of my life. I was having recurring nightmares about a former partner that I was with, an amazing woman. We had to part ways, but I was having recurring nightmares about her in a way that I never ever ended up making any sense. Like, how could I possibly be thinking about this person who I really truly care about, is a wonderful human being. But why, for some reason, am I having this perception on my memory now that is dark and it is cloudy? What the heck is the deal with this? So after having these nightmares again and again of just this person who I truly cared about, but they were just mean to me and it was dark, like this doesn't seem right. Like, what's going on inside of me? What the heck is happening here? So I ended up doing some research online. I found this documentary on YouTube that was like a trailer for this documentary. The trailer was it was a documentary called E-Motion. I thought, okay, this is interesting. This is like right at what I need. And I couldn't find it on YouTube. Only the trailer was there, but I found it on Gaia.com, which is like kind of this like alternative health website. Not recommending everything from that website. Okay, there's some stuff on there that's kind of out there. That's like not what I want to get into here today, but if you're curious, some people are like that stuff. It's all good. Look it up. It's very fascinating. But you know what? I was hurting emotionally so bad. It was like tied in a knot, and I was upset. And so this documentary had all these experts on emotion, like how your internal emotions can get tied in knots. Sometimes it can become this feeling inside of you that gets stuck. And you begin to kind of resonate that, and you see life through this tainted memory of your past. So how the heck can we move forward into the future and live better, healthier, happier lives and realize our full potential if we're constantly living in the past? And the answer is we can't. We can't really. If we struggle against that, we're swimming upstream. So why not just find the root of the problem and pick out the root and then just cast it aside and move forward and not worry about it? Well, my friends, that's exactly what I did. So this documentary, E-Motion, had a really huge effect on me. I watched it twice. I realized there was a speaker in that book named Dr. Bradley Nelson. And one of my close friends, Steve, actually talks to me all the time. He used to talk to me all the time about this. We moved past this. We advanced. We got some smart minds here in the circle. And so I appreciate my friend Steve so much, because without getting into it, I'm going to have to interview Steve in future go lives here, because I feel like his perspectives on self-love are just absolutely fascinating. But Dr. Bradley Nelson is basically a gentleman who is a specialist in something called applied kinesiology. And this is the ability to self-diagnose yourself and to ask your subconscious yes and no questions. You can't ask complicated questions to your subconscious. You can't say, oh, Mr. Subconscious, what did I eat on Wednesday? Subconscious is going to be like, play by the rules, you idiot. So, but your subconscious is tied to your body. Your body is this physical being. So if I want to hack into my subconscious and ask my subconscious questions, my body has very few abilities, has very few ways that it can reveal things to me. There's probably about a handful of them, and all of them revolve around a strong response or a weak response. And so you can ask yourself questions. For example, this is like the very basic exercise. I'm used to this, but it's like a strength test exercise. So when I first start doing applied kinesiology and when I ask myself these questions, and by the way, the book has all these different things about this. Like the book has, excuse me, has all the yes or no questions laid out in a formula. It's so easy. But the purpose of this book is to self-diagnose yourself and ask yourself through a series of yes or no questions, and you get a strong response. Like, for example, if I say, my name's Russell, and I go to try to pull my fingers apart, what I'm trying to do is I'm sensing my strength. My strength is very strong, and I know it's true. I know my name is Russell, but if I say my name is like Frank Sherbert, there's no amount of strength that I can put. I'm slipping. It's slipping, and it slips. I know that's false. You can self-diagnose. You can test these things again and again. You can find out all kinds of different things about what's stuck inside you, this baggage that you're holding on to. So are you ready, my friends? This is the book that made me realize that I have the potential to be an entrepreneur that can step away from the 9-to-5, that can accomplish things that I previously believed were maybe out of my realm. You know what? This book changed all that. This book, The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson, is probably one of the most important books I've ever bought. I wouldn't be here today telling you any of this if I had not put what I found in this book into action. But the truth was, I was hurting so bad, having these recurring nightmares again and again, that I had to change because I was waking up from that. Excuse me. I was waking up from that feeling like total crap. Like every day, imagine starting your day with a nightmare of your former, someone who you really care about, like a nightmare about them treating you like garbage, So waking up from that to like a life like that is like, you can't get anything done. But what happened was, I ended up going through this book. I bought it online literally right after I saw the documentary. I read it in 2 days. I just flew right through it because I had such a huge pain point. I had to solve this because I'm not getting anything out of my life anymore. What I ended up realizing, what I ended up undoing was, and this is like kind of like a personal zone, but like I'm gonna, because there's a middle section to this book, which I've been writing all these different little things that I've been undoing about myself, all these different little emotions that have been stuck inside me. For example, what I ended up undoing that day when I finally undid this, I ended up undoing abandonment and love unreceived, which were two very powerful things. I finished the exercise. I did all the muscle tests. I found the problem. I asked myself, I'm ready to get rid of it. And it's the silliest thing. You're gonna freak out. This is so silly and so ridiculous. But you take a freaking magnet, a fridge magnet. One of my good friends made this for me. You take a fridge magnet, and you ask yourself, you gotta zone in on. The whole book is about like magnetics and how magnets can be used for healing in some sense. It's not like totally studied, but it is fascinating, and it's funny because it seems to work. And so I'm not really going to ask too many questions. It worked for me, and I know that because when I did the exercise, I swiped this magnet over my prime meridian 3 times, and then you check yourself again. It's like, yo, is that emotion there? Your body's like, you feel good. You're like, something's different. Okay, cool. And you get this like feeling that, you know what, I am all right. Whatever. I'm not going to look into it too much, but I went to bed that night and I woke up from my dream that night after having these terrible recurring nightmares. I woke up from that dream. It was a dream about this individual exactly as I wanted to remember her. It was perfect to a T. And I thought, you know what? I feel like $1 million right now. And it's like my life was given back to me on an emotional platter, but in a way I never expected. It was like an emotional realization. It was like my emotional alignment with all these different things, all these moving parts was just like centered. And I was like, okay, now I understand where my point is. Now I understand where I can move from. And so the realization that I had from this book, I tie into my entrepreneur awakening, because this was like the very first moment where I started to really undo all the baggage inside of me. And since then, whenever I'm going through a tough time, I open up this book, and I assure you, there is something there that wants to come out. And very often we just think, okay, no, I'm just gonna, do this exercise. You gotta ask a bunch of yes or no questions, right? Big deal. But what you end up undoing, it's gonna, oh my God, like I can't even get, I need this book, because, like both my parents passed away when I was a teenager from cancer. And so I've had anxiety, I've had anger, I've had overwhelm, like insecurity, creative insecurity, frustration, depression, anger. The most recent one that I undid was self-abuse. You can see that right there. Self-abuse highlighted. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, oh, you're very welcome, Ingrid. My humble opinion, finally undoing all these other little small ones on the top, and then getting down to the self-abuse one, was one of the biggest game changers I've ever done. Okay. Because now it's so strange, but it has an effect on you. It really, really does. I don't understand it, but it has an effect. You might notice a subtle change right away, but you'll start, as the next few days pass on, it's like you have the ability to develop new habits at an astounding rate. And so since I've undone that self-abuse one, maybe there's some other things, but this stuff can stem back to childhood. This is like undoing maybe little things that you don't even remember, that your subconscious holds on to, that things that happened to you before you were 8 years old, when you're building your worldview, and you don't realize it, but this stuff is like in the back of your mind, preventing you from moving forward and taking these big steps and realizing your full potential and stepping into the life of your dreams, and being able to show others how to do the same thing and spreading this amazing gifts with the world. If I never bought this book, you probably wouldn't have seen any videos from me on Facebook. I would probably still be overworking myself in the recording studio, recording crazy, weird, obscure metal, to the point that I ended up hating my music, and getting nothing done, nothing out there. And so I literally would not be here today without this book. No one really ever talks about this book. Maybe it's different for everybody, but I assure you, if you're a human being, you have embedded emotions, you have the potential to have trapped emotions. And why would you want to go through life holding onto that baggage? It's like keeping a weight in your pocket. Like, it's not going to help you. But if you're, let's be honest, if you're doing some kind of crazy military strength training, you're going to want to put weights in your pocket. You're going to want to burden yourself, because why make it easy? That kind of training is all about challenge. And also, undoing that self-abuse, that little final thing, like we all abuse ourselves in some way. For example, what is self-abuse? Me not posting online and sharing this information with you is a form of self-abuse, because in a sense, me making these posts and helping educate the people in my circle that I care about, I'm building, I'm adding value to my friends and family. And if I don't do that, everybody stays the same. Their perception of me, it stays the same. But if I'm able to enter into the state where I love myself more, and I love myself to the point that I want to love myself so much that the people in my life realize that I care about them in a way that they've never realized, and then they start to love me more because of that. It's like I'm by holding back, I'm abusing myself more. For example, by me not doing these days, like for example, this is a funny thing, but very often we're like, oh, I'm going to put off going to the gym, or I'm going to put off going to the gym. You really it doesn't have to be like this thing where you're like, oh, I have to get into the cycle of going to the gym. You know what? You have 24 hours in a day. How many of those hours are you awake? Maybe 16, maybe a little bit less, depending on your cycle or whatnot. How many opportunities do you have in the day to drop down and do 20 push-ups? You would be amazed how many opportunities you're leaving on the table. But sometimes we just don't realize that because we're stuck in a loop. Right now, I'm in this incredible cycle of self-love that I've never been in as many years as I can remember. This is like going back to a state in my childhood where I was waking up with an excitement, waking up with a joy to want to help people. And it gets really dark, like if we're in a state of constantly self-abusing ourselves, it's like you will not realize the opportunities that are in front of you that you're just saying no to because you're used to self-abuse. You're used to saying, no, this isn't for me. I'm not going to take part in this because I want to suffer. You know, I'm not going to help educate people on, you know, I'm not going to take the daily action steps for my business because I want myself to suffer. You know what? That's, to be honest, that's self-abuse. And if we don't get down to the bottom of this, if we don't crack into what it is that's making us tick and pull out these little gears and these little broken bits and chuck them over our shoulder, we're going to wake up one day and realize our entire life passed us by. So, oh my gosh, my friends, this book, it's $20. You know, I'll put a link down in the description below somewhere. This book, like, you can get this book for free if you get a digital copy. However, are you really going to want a digital copy? Because I like to bookmark stuff. I like to write, like, it's almost like a journal for me. I like to write notes like, oh, on this date I undid this emotion or whatever. And you're not going to have emotions to undo forever. This is like when you sense something was wrong, pull out this book and undo it, because who knows? There's all kinds of interesting health information in this book. Oh, you're so welcome, Ingrid. There's all kinds of health information in this book about, like I mentioned, magnetics, and like I mentioned, alternative healing methods. But there's something to be said about how our emotional state affects our health. And if we are going through life holding on to a bunch of stuff, otherwise we're healthy, maybe we're having a good diet, but yet we have all this emotional baggage. You know, what the heck are we really being honest with ourselves? You know, if we're just looking at all the physical, the success aspects of our life, what about all this extra baggage that doesn't take up any space in our pockets that we're still holding on to, right? So a little $20 book could very well be the secret to you unlocking all of your potential, all of your entrepreneurial dreams, realizing how much of a difference you can make in the lives of other people, realizing how much more joy you could add to your lives. You know, like, this book has paid for itself like 100 times over already, like, by far. So I really am so grateful to share this with you. This is like one of my favorite tools that I've used. And it's funny. It's not like, you know, there's other books that I love too, but this one particular book, it's like a friend that you need when you need like, not a doctor, but like an emotional doctor almost, like, but you know, he's a doctor. So got to give him credit where credit's due. The Emotion Code. Absolutely phenomenal book. You will most certainly need a friend to make you one of these crazy magnets. Blah. Once again, you need a magnet because you need to do that freaking exercise that still boggles my mind, but it works. So that was I'm so grateful to be able to share this with you guys. I've been wanting to do a really quick snippet video on this for a little while. If you download this book, you get the free version of it. It's definitely out there. You will not be disappointed, but I assure you, if you get the physical copy and you get this middle page with all these different trapped emotions, you don't have to memorize any of this entire chart. You don't have to memorize any of it. It's like you look at it once, your subconscious knows, and you basically like self-diagnose. You left. Yo, what's up, Romar? Good to see you, brother. Chronos. You end up self-diagnosing yourself, and it ends up bringing you to this correct emotion that you need to get rid of. Get rid of it, and that's gone. It's it. Then you can move forward. Sometimes emotions can be reattached later, but it reattaches in a different way, and you can still undo it again. But you know what? You owe it to yourself, an epic act of self-love. Undo your emotional mental baggage, because your future is waiting for you. And if you don't, you know what? World's going to keep turning. But I believe that all of us deserve the best lives we can. And I would be a fool. I would be an absolute fool if I didn't tell you guys about this book, because this book is basically the reason why I'm in front of you today, why there are so many moving, amazing, incredible things happening in my life right now with the business, with the entrepreneur world. Everything is starting to hit critical mass. It's a very exciting time. And I'm so grateful. I keep looking back at this book and I'm like, you know what, man, those terrible nightmares, the recurring nightmares that I was having, was actually one of the greatest gifts in my entire life. But I didn't see it that way at the time, my friends. All right. Special thanks to Ingrid, Amy, and Romar. Thank you for joining me today. This has been a Russell West Entrepreneur Cool Zone update with my fun forest backdrop behind me. I miss all you guys. I love all of you so much. And thank you for tuning in. And I look forward to adding more value to you another time. All right, my friends. Take care.